Tonight, unconditional surrender. Donald Trump sets a new endgame with Iran. The new front in the widening war, and which major power is said to be feeding intel to Tehran. Plus, emotional reunions as Canadian families return home.
We saw missiles being intercepted right in front of our eyes because we were just on the beach. It was a scary experience.
Why U.S. nurses are leaving everything behind for a new life in British Columbia.
I never imagined that I would ever leave.
And the Paralympic stage is set. Athletes prove anything is possible as they compete for gold.
It's a long wait for this one moment to go put everything on the line.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. The United States appears to be ruling out negotiations with Iran as Donald Trump calls for its unconditional surrender. Heavy bombardment by the U.S. and Israel continued for a seventh day, with Iran still firing missiles of its own. And today, the first indication that Moscow has sought to get involved in the war. We begin with CTV's Adrian Gobriel in Adana, Turkey tonight.
Friday's prayers at Tehran's Grand Mosque punctuate 7 days of war across the Middle East. Spilling into the streets, thousands of Islamic Republic regime supporters protest the killing of their supreme leader. One man holding up a sign that reads in Farsi, "Death to America." As air raid sirens sound in Tel Aviv, warning of an incoming Iranian missile strike, Israeli and U.S. forces have vowed to increase their ever-intensifying onslaught across Iran. The IDF releasing this video, a barrage of bombs fired by roughly 50 Israeli fighter jets on the first day of this war. The target, an underground military bunker where Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei may have been killed. On the outskirts of Adana, Turkey, a group of elders hold court at this table. The heated discussion of this day, Iran's right to defend itself after a NATO base in this city shot down an Iranian missile in Turkish airspace. Hassan Berdogan questions, why are we spending money on war instead of helping people? Abdul Rahman chimes in saying he believes Iran has the right to hit any country that has a U.S. base.
We're in southern Turkey, which borders both Syria and Iraq. Now, this neighborhood is called Anadolu. It's home to a community of refugees, many living in poverty. They know the toll of regional war all too well. We met 12-year-old Fouad, who wants to be a police officer. His 12-year-old friend Hassan wants to be a sailor. Each of their families fled war in Syria. They tell us that it feels like danger has followed them since the day they were born. We are worried because it feels like everyone is dying, says young Fouad. Do you have any hope to go back to Syria? The country is our country, says Hassan. When the war is over, we will return. Though when that will be possible is anyone's guess.
Are you worried for future generations in this region?
Yes, we are worried, says this elder. The war is feeding the rich. The powerful are having their way while people die.
And tonight, multiple reports citing American officials who say Russia is now providing Iran with location intelligence to target U.S. assets in the Middle East. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Adana, Turkey.
President Trump says he hopes for some assistance on the ground in toppling the Iranian regime, saying it would be, quote, wonderful if the Iranian Kurds joined in the fight with a ground attack. It's estimated that Iran's Kurdish ethnicity composes about 10% of the country's population. Reports say the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan is in contact with the U.S. government. As the conflict spreads, there are growing fears the region could plunge into a devastating crisis. Now, the UN's refugee agency has declared a major humanitarian emergency.
The worry is, as the conflict intensifies and escalates, we could see more people, more human misery, and more people who would be forced to leave their homes.
UN agencies warn the crisis is affecting at least 16 countries, with civilian casualties and damage to vital infrastructure increasing. The widening conflict making it difficult for people to leave, including Canadians stuck in the region desperate for support from Ottawa. CTV's senior correspondent Judy Trinh takes a look at help the federal government is offering.
Thousands of Canadians are in the line of fire, including this Montreal couple stranded in Doha.
We saw one projectile just above our head and big bang. And that was followed by another 3 or 4 bangs.
The war is widening. The U.S. and Israel are escalating airstrikes against Iran and attacking militant groups in Lebanon and Iraq. Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic is retaliating against 10 neighboring nations that are American allies.
So dealing with those consequences very much goes first and foremost to the Canadians in the region, protecting the Canadians if the Canadians wish to leave the region, assistance with that.
More than 108,000 Canadians are registered in the Middle East. 3,500 people have requested help to leave.
Step by step, we are ensuring that Canadians can leave through 3 means, either through our chartered flights, through block bookings on existing airlines, and by ground transportation.
As the bombing intensifies, one charter flight and seats on several commercial airlines have been organized to get 460 people out of Lebanon and the United Arab Emirates. Buses from Qatar to Saudi Arabia are also being organized. The Canadian Armed Forces haven't yet been asked to step in, but are assessing the circumstances. The military has a blueprint to work from. In 2006, almost 15,000 people were evacuated from Lebanon as Israel waged war on Hezbollah. Peter MacKay was the foreign minister at the time.
The threshold is not necessarily numbers so much as urgency and proximity to danger, proximity to the fire, if you will.
The federal government says passengers will have to pay for the costs of seats on planes and buses. Any unused seats will go to citizens of allied countries. Heather.
Thanks, Judy. CTV's Judy Trinh in Ottawa. Some Canadians able to flee the region landed today at Canada's largest airport, relieved to be home. CTV's Beth McDonnell on their ordeal.
A long-awaited hug with family at Pearson Airport after a scramble to fly home from war erupting in the Middle East.
We were worried about getting home and worried about getting a flight. And every night there were missiles and alerts going on, so we're really happy to be home.
Neil Danix was at a conference in Dubai. He says he booked several flights and was starting to make plans to drive through mountains to Oman before the airline secured his seat. Danix is among a select number of air passengers to get out of the United Arab Emirates. As fighting intensified this week, flights were canceled.
We saw missiles being intercepted right in front of our eyes because we were just on the beach. It was a scary experience. We just rushed out. And then there was a fire at the U.S. Embassy, which is like 10 minutes from where we were staying. So it was a bit scary, but it's okay. As long as we're back, we're happy.
On the ground, things were all right. There were lots of interception sounds and stuff overhead, but there was never really crazy panic.
Air Canada has suspended flights from Israel and Dubai until March 22nd, leaving those wanting to escape few options.
It was just not possible. It wasn't any flights, 3 days. Then they start little by little.
Finally being home, bringing a big sense of relief. Etihad Airways and Emirates are continuing flights from Abu Dhabi and Dubai to Pearson into tomorrow, which means we can expect more Canadians to return home soon. Beth McDonnell, CTV News, Toronto.
The ongoing conflict throwing the global economy into disarray. The price of oil soaring above $90 a barrel for the first time in more than 2 years. There is concern if the Strait of Hormuz next to Iran continues to be choked off by the conflict, prices could soar much higher. Close to a fifth of the world's oil moves through the strait. The federal government and Alberta have reached an agreement in principle to fast-track major projects in the province. Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith weighed in today on why a previous Supreme Court ruling played a significant role.
The fact that this now restores what I think the Supreme Court intended was that major projects within our boundaries are going to be governed by Alberta processes. That, I think, restores the original intention of how our country is supposed to work.
The agreement is intended to streamline major energy and infrastructure projects in Alberta under a single assessment process, unlike last year's MOU, which focused on broad energy cooperation. Officials say the framework could also reduce bottlenecks and clear the path for large developments, including future pipeline proposals, while respecting the rights of Indigenous communities. And the minister in charge of Canada-U.S. trade posting this picture today following a meeting with America's trade representative, Dominic LeBlanc, calling the talk with Jameson Greer over the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement review process constructive and substantive. LeBlanc says the two will meet again in the coming days. Trade high on the agenda today for the Prime Minister, as well as he continued his overseas tour in Japan. CTV's Abigail Beeman now with Canada's latest strategic partnership.
Japan welcomed Prime Minister Mark Carney with O Canada, while Carney offered up some Japanese. As he did in India and Australia, the Prime Minister is trying to show the Indo-Pacific Canada has what the world wants. In Japan, Canadian liquefied natural gas is high on the list.
We do much, but we're ready to do much more.
Canada and Japan announced a new strategic partnership, boosting trade, energy, and defense.
We need to be doing a lot more with Japan and with Korea when it comes to understanding the threat from China and Russia to Canada's, basically Canada's western part of our Arctic.
Kuzma is very important part of the calculation.
But nearly 3/4 of cars made in Canada are Japanese, providing thousands of Canadian jobs. And Japan is watching the review of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Free Trade Agreement closely.
I think that is the critical condition, because Canada is, of course, a G7 country. Your GDP is one of the top 10 countries, $2.5 trillion. But you know the size of the U.S. market, $30 trillion.
The Prime Minister says the government has been listening to Japanese automakers' concerns with new policy that reflects them.
So all of that is in the context of ensuring that our auto sector is going to be strong, it's going to be robust, regardless of any conceivable outcome of the CUSMA negotiation.
The Prime Minister meets with Japanese automakers and other businesses on the final day of this 10-day Indo-Pacific tour. Heather?
Thanks, Abigail. CTV's Abigail Beeman in Tokyo. The judge in the sexual assault case against Frank Stronach has indicated he will be found not guilty on some charges. The Crown and defense argued today over whether the evidence given during the Crown's case was enough to satisfy the charges. Justice Anne Malloy then indicated she will enter not guilty verdicts on 3 charges, one of attempted rape, another of sexual assault, and one of forcible confinement. The trial resumes Monday when the defense is expected to call its first witness. Stronach has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Police are investigating a violent fight that broke out at a London, Ontario school yesterday. Videos posted on social media showed students engaged in a brawl as white powder filled 2 floors of Saunders Secondary School. Students say the fire extinguisher was discharged.
People swarmed the kid who sprayed it, and he tried to defend himself using the extinguisher, but it was a mess.
The police and fire department were called to the scene. Police did not say if charges have been laid. The district school board says those involved will be disciplined as per its policies and procedures.
I'm Andrew Johnson in Nanaimo, BC. Coming up on CTV National News. The American infusion easing the staffing crisis at Canadian hospitals.
I've never dreamed of leaving the U.S., but here we are.
I belong to you guys now.
Why U.S. nurses are uprooting their lives and how a growing grassroots campaign is trying to recruit more. Coming up on CTV National News.
A tourist from Ontario is facing animal cruelty charges in Las Vegas for allegedly stealing and seriously injuring a flamingo earlier this week. Screenshots show Mitchell Farbarn taking a bird named Peachy from the iconic Flamingo Hotel's wildlife habitat up to his room after chasing and pinning down multiple other flamingos. Police say he choked the bird and injured its wing. Fairbairn admitted he was drunk and that his actions were, quote, repulsive. The hotel says it is hopeful Peachy will make a full recovery. Attracting and retaining nurses is an issue across the country, contributing to the major strain in Canadian healthcare. But there are dozens of new recruits in British Columbia. CTV's Andrew Johnson on why they decided to leave their lives in the United States behind.
You were laughing.
This is a very unlikely group of co-workers, 4 Vancouver Island nurses who a few months ago lived thousands of kilometers apart in the United States.
I never imagined that I would ever leave.
But the women from Arizona, Michigan, and California each hit their own breaking point with the current U.S. climate.
If you're a nurse, you can't support what's going on down there. We all take an oath, to care for the poor and vulnerable, and that's not what's happening.
You face racism, right, in the U.S. It's almost like you can't miss it.
So belongings were packed up or sold off, and with partners, children, pets, or all alone, they crossed the border to start new lives in Nanaimo, BC.
It's beautiful here. There's so many beautiful hikes and waterfalls.
And they've been blown away by the reception from the community, including applause at the grocery store.
Somebody's like, where'd you come from? I'm like, oh, from the U.S. It's like, are you one of our nurses? I'm like, yeah. And the next thing, just a bunch of people started clapping.
Not surprising, considering BC is short thousands of nurses. The BC government has been actively advertising in the U.S. to recruit healthcare workers, but 3 of the 4 nurses we spoke to, now caring for patients here, were enticed by a grassroots social media campaign they saw on TikTok.
What if we picked a day in like a month and a half or so where all of you come up here?
That's Nanaimo's Todd Maffin, a part-time influencer who, on a lark, invited Americans to visit the city during the tariff dispute. And among the hundreds who actually showed up were a few healthcare workers considering making a move.
So my wife and I kind of repositioned the whole thing as a healthcare recruitment project. And I think we're past 40 nurses and doctors now that have passed through that program that are moving here or have already moved.
His social media-based healthcare infusion movement has now expanded to cities across the country in search of more people like this.
Oh, I'm already working on permanent residency.
I belong to you guys now.
My boys are old enough they can hop on a plane and come see me.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Nanaimo, BC.
Still ahead, a mother's plea. The program, she says, saved her son's life and why others are pushing back against making it more accessible. We're hearing tonight from a PEI mother who is sharing her story in an effort to help others. She says a community treatment order saved her son's life as he faced mental illness and homelessness. CTV's Marie Saru on why some feel the bar to qualify is too high.
Marlene Bryanton spends hours on her laptop pushing for a change to PEI's Mental Health Act. Her son Andrew was formerly homeless in Toronto, but now he's working full-time and living on his own.
If Andrew didn't have the community treatment order, he wouldn't be here today.
A CTO is a legal order issued by a psychiatrist which sets a treatment plan for a person with a mental illness that they have to comply with while living in their community rather than a psychiatric facility. PEI became the last province to pass legislation creating CTOs in late 2023, but some say it's too restrictive. Conditions include that the person is considered not capable of giving or refusing consent to treatment, and they must have been admitted as an involuntary patient in a psychiatric facility at least twice for 30 days or more.
The number of beds, psychiatric beds available has fallen dramatically, and so it no longer is possible to have people stay for prolonged periods in hospital.
The use of CTOs has been the subject of debate, with some legal experts saying they intrude on human rights. Here on the island, non-compliance can lead to police apprehending a person and taking them involuntarily to a psychiatric facility.
These are prone to misuse. They're just a convenient tool of control. They cause more stigma. They permit coercion.
But others say say it's about protecting patients when illness impairs their insight.
I believe that there are sufficient protections built into mental health legislation. If we didn't have involuntary admission and treatment, we would have a lot of very ill people on the street.
Back at Bryanton's home, she says too many families are left out.
It's like we have our old Andrew back, and he's so much healthier and so much happier.
For its part, PEI's health ministry says it will be reviewing the Mental Health Act and its implementation in the upcoming months. Maria Saru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
Still ahead, going for gold. Canadian athletes eye the Paralympic podium. Who to watch for next? The 2026 Paralympic Winter Games are officially underway in Italy, with the opening ceremony unfolding this afternoon. Canadians will be competing for medals, including the country's sledge hockey team, predicting another Canada-US showdown. Here's CTV's John Benavalli-Rao with more on the Games and the inspirational athletes going for gold.
After a torch relay that saw the Paralympic flame carried across Italy, it finally made its way to the opening ceremony, where athletes from 50 countries gathered inside the iconic Verona Arena for a display celebrating the start of the 14th Paralympic Games. That'll see 50 Canadians compete, including Tyler Turner, who lost both legs below the knee because of a skydiving accident. He'll take part in para snowboarding after winning Canada's first gold in the sport 4 years ago.
I can't wait. I mean, I've been ready for this for so long. It's a long wait for this one moment to go put everything on the line, and I cannot wait for that moment to come.
Greatness doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts on local trails after school.
As shown in this promotional video, the athletes have been training hard to compete in all sorts of events, including wheelchair curling and para skiing. With Saskatchewan's Brittany Hudak a top medal hope, an inspiration to others, she's at her 4th Paralympic Games. And when it comes to sledge hockey, the Canadian team predicts they'll again battle Team USA for the gold after winning silver at the last 2 games. The team is being led by Ontario's Tyler McGregor, who lost a leg to a type of bone cancer.
I think for us to be able to represent our sport on the global stage and inspire the next young kid who may be missing a leg or has a disability to maybe dream of one day doing the same, I think that's what success looks like.
Serving as honorary captain for the Paralympic team, 6-time para skiing medalist Mac Marcoux.
I think across all 5 sports, we have a lot of athletes to keep your eye on. It's almost one of those things you can't look away because you might miss something incredible.
With new heroes and new stories set to emerge over the next 9 days of competition. John Benavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Some talented athletes to keep an eye on. That is our newscast for this Friday night. I'm Heather Butts for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.